Dein Fischer, da läuft er, da läuft er.
Bonjour, bonjour, mes amis. Ich bin heute mal journalistisch alleine in der Stadt der Liebe unterwegs. Bei sonnigen -10 Grad bin ich in Paris. Bei Ubisoft zum neuen Splinter Cell Spiel und wie ihr seht...
Wir sitzen hier im Taxi. Das hat zeitliche Gründe, weil unser Flieger hatte Verspätung und wir wollten dann erst mit Bahn fahren und sind dann doch nicht mit Bahn gefahren, sind 500 Meter mit Taxi gefahren, bis wir dann herausgefunden haben, dass jemand auf uns wartet und uns abholt. Deswegen sind wir jetzt im Taxi, fahren noch ein bisschen und haben vielleicht eigentlich viel zu wenig Zeit, für Bilder zu machen.
Aber seht selbst. Ja, wir sind jetzt angekommen über ein paar Umwege, die hatte ich ja schon angedeutet mit, fahren wir mit Zug, fahren wir mit Taxi, bleiben wir stehen, fahren weiter mit Taxi. Auf jeden Fall sind wir jetzt hier im Herzen Paris. Hier sehe ich den Eiffelturm, da sehe ich Notre Dame, seht ihr alles nicht. Ist auch völlig egal, ihr wollt das sehen. Deswegen schnacke ich gar nicht lange, ich gehe jetzt rein, zocke ein bisschen, ja, ihr nicht, schade. Tschüss.
Ich hab das Spiel besiegt!
Just the man I'm looking for.
My name's Patrick Redding. I'm the game director on Splinter Cell Blacklist out of Ubisoft Toronto. So, if there's one thing that I think players need to know about Splinter Cell Blacklist is that this is a game about player choice. It's a game that supports many styles of play, from the most hardcore stealth to the most balls-out action, and that all that player choice revolves around a huge set of features and a huge variety of gameplay situations that give the player a lot of reasons to come back to the game. There's a lot of room to get better. There's a lot of room for mastery, and whether you're interested in Sam Fisher as the elite operative who keeps to the shadows and strikes without warning and disappears, or you're interested in upgrading all of your gadgets and your weapons and using the economy system, or you're interested in adversarial multiplayer or co-op, the point is there's an enormous range of content there. It's the biggest, most ambitious Splinter Cell yet released. So we talk a lot about three main play styles. It's not the only style of play, but it's kind of the three ones that our game recognizes and rewards really aggressively. The first is what I'd call the ghost player. And this is the kind of style of play that'll be familiar to anybody who's a fan of the original trilogy of Splinter Cell. It's the player who's completely invisible, who never leaves a mark, who hits the objective without ever being detected and without ever necessarily having to engage or touch the enemy. It's someone who takes pride in being a purist, and I think that that's one extreme style of play. On the other end of the spectrum would be the assault player, who, the person who goes in planning to kick the door in, to throw in the flashbang grenades, maybe having already, decided which gun they're going to use to take out all the enemies in the room. Someone who's very focused on the hardware, who's focused on having enough armor and enough equipment. And then somewhere in the middle, you have the player who is undetected, but moves lightning fast and is lethal. It strikes from the shadows and leaves a trail of bodies in their wake and then disappears. And that's a very hard thing to achieve in our game. That requires a real ability to link together a lot of the different game mechanics in a seamless and fluid way. And that's what we call the Panther. And it's kind of the optimal experience that we hope players have by the time they're finished with the game. I think the best way I can put stealth players' mind to rest is to say that in Splinter Cell Blacklist, the game is stealth by default. In other words, you arrive at an environment, you're on a mission, you're at a location, and by definition, by default, you're undetected. The AI doesn't know you're coming, the enemy doesn't know you're on the way, they don't know that you're hitting the objective, and they go about their business providing you with interesting tactical challenges and interesting windows of opportunity. And what the player chooses to do is up to them. Now, we will recognize and very, very heavily reward players who are stealthy. If you remain undetected, if you use non-lethal means, if you have to knock someone out, you hide their bodies. If you need to use a gadget, use one that's not going to be traced back to you. You always remain silent, you remain invisible. We'll recognize that. The game is able to recognize it, and using our economy system, we reward you with points, which you can then spend on customization. Similarly, if you are the kind of aggressive stealth player who wants to use stealth as a launching pad for launching lightning fast attacks and then disappearing before anybody knows what's happening, we'll be able to tell that as well. So I'd say that 2 out of the 3 main styles of play are really stealth oriented. They're different flavors of stealth, but they're really stealth oriented. There's only the kind of one more extreme approach, which is very difficult for players. Our AI is extremely sophisticated, and if you go out guns blazing expecting to just walk through the maps, you're in for a rude shock. So it's a very different kind of experience. It's not a third-person shooter. It's really, we provide good cover and shooting mechanics so that they feel good and the player feels like someone like Sam, who has the training, is able to engage the enemy that way. But there's a lot of pressure on the player to disappear and to regain that stealth advantage, the element of surprise, or even the invisibility that comes with being the ghost. So I'm not revealing any locations outside of the ones that we've talked about already. It's part of our ongoing campaign of releasing more information about all the different game modes. I have to be fair to everybody on that. I will tell you that one of the other level design directors, the colleague of my friend Matt West, who's in the next room there, Ben Bauer, is originally from Germany, and I know he petitioned very, very strongly to have a mission set in Berlin at one point. And so believe me when I tell you there was definitely an advocate evangelizing on behalf of a German location, but that's all I can say. So it's funny, early on in the development of Splinter Cell Blacklist, we talked a lot about establishing a visual signature style. In Conviction, we had the projected ingredients, the text.
Hey! Was machst du da?
Ich häng ein Plakat auf.
Okay.
And we knew we wanted to bring some elements of that back, but we also knew that we wanted to find a way to create a really strong physical connection between the player, the avatar, and the world. And we've always felt like one way to do that was to treat every element that's visible on screen as a physical object that has some kind of mass and presence and volume in the world. Our art director, Scott Lee, and our creative director, Max Ballin, and our presentation director, Wiley Robinson, the three of them worked together to define this kind of signature style, which they called Through the Lens, which really says that everything that you're seeing on screen has been viewed through some kind of actual piece of optics. And so every map in the game has a kind of unique atmospheric quality to it. So when you're in the London mission and there's a rainstorm going on, you know, you feel the condensation on the lens, you feel the water droplets, you feel the sense of mist and all that. And it's just a way of immersing the player more in the environment, which, you know, immersion and environmental contact and interaction has always been a big part of Splinter Cell, which is why we chose to go this route. Well, I have no doubt in my mind that in a straight head-to-head contest of skills, infiltration skills and lethality, that Sam Fisher would defeat, I'm sorry to say, Ezio as well as Agent 47. I know that Ezio is much smoother. He has a much better social skills than Sam Fisher, and I think that possibly Agent 47 has a more entertaining worldview, more disturbed perhaps, but I think that Sam, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of getting the job done, I give him the advantage.
All right, I need options. Now would be good.
Ja, das war das Event hier in Paris von Splinter Cell Blacklist. Ich konnte spielen, wir haben eine schöne Präsentation gekriegt mit 2 Levels und natürlich das Interview gehabt, was ihr gehört habt. Jetzt muss ich ja irgendwie so eine fachliche Meinung sagen, wie mir das Spiel gefallen hat. Es gibt halt eben diese 3 Spielweisen, Panther, Ghost und Assault. Die Grafik hat mir auch sehr gut gefallen. Das wird kein neues Gears of War. Ich bin Transformers-Fan, also ich habe eigentlich gar kein Niveau. Tschüss!